Well, thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to be here. And wow, what a journey you've been on. I mean, obviously, 5 years ago, life is very different, and it's amazing to see what you've done in terms of leadership here. And what an exciting time, guys! I mean, who would have expected what we're all facing right now a few weeks ago? But look, it's definitely an honor to be able to come in here and just speak really open and honestly about what we can all do in order to help us create more success. I've just got a message, Katie, he's an Aussie. Actually, Charlotte, I am an Aussie. Chantel, my partner, is South African. But so many people, I guess it's one of those things where Chantel sounds South African to me, but to everyone else, she sounds Aussie when she's in South Africa, and vice versa when I'm traveling as well. It's kind of a bit weird. But, long story short, I just want to give you a little bit of background. I originally started my career as a performance coach. I had elite athletes that I was working with, had client representation at the Athens Olympics. And I always thought that was going to be my way out of not having to work a job in an office, right? I saw my father work long hours when I was a kid, sorry. And I said, I'll never want to do that. I want to be a stay-at-home dad one day. And so I need to find a smart vehicle to do that. Obviously, as a performance coach, you work time for money. If I didn't work, I didn't get paid. And so I was introduced to the network marketing industry very early on. In fact, final day of high school, I had my best friend's father say, hey, James, I've got an opportunity for you. Sat in Palm Beach in Sydney and was presented an opportunity there as well. Spent 18 years in the industry, built some very high-performing teams over the world, a lot in Africa as well, which is a lot of fun because firstly, it connected me to Chantel. I didn't even know her before then. I was working with her mum for about 2 years before her name even came up. So it's an amazing opportunity to be able to meet people. I know there's some people on the call here that I've met through this industry and this business as well, and it's a happy story there. And it's amazing. Actually, can I get anyone to raise their hands if they're single at the moment? I just want to make sure we cover this one up. Okay, guys, look around. You might have a future partner on this call. Fantastic. But look, that's what happened for me. So we ended up building some pretty serious business through LinkedIn back when it was first launched. We enrolled about 500 people through the platform, which led to teams of well over 10,000. And it was amazing to see what the online piece did back then. And then what happened, long story short, we got told we could never have kids back in 2011. And we changed every single thing about what we were doing in terms of approaching our lives in order to be able to reverse the belief of the doctors. And naturally, we were able to conceive a few years ago. And we now have he'll be 3 next month, a little boy, Urban. And it's been a great story. Now, the reason I tell you that is because back in 2011, although we were gaining success in this industry, every single other part of my life was out of balance. And so what I often see now as a result of having that level of awareness, when you go through your own circumstances, it's your neurological system's really powerful, right? The moment you start thinking something, you start seeing it, right, as confirmation. And so all of a sudden I started seeing all these people getting all the money, but being burnt out in all other areas of their life, whether it was making the money at the jeopardy of their relationships, making the money at the jeopardy of their health. But I saw it so often. And so what really going through a journey of self-care, if you'd like, going inwards to be able to go outwards and being able to change everything we were doing nutritionally all the way through to how we showed up in life, I realized there were a lot of people in the world that needed a lot of support. And that's why now I really operate as a performance coach and help people no matter what they're focused on in order to get the best success and best results. Now, I'll give you that background because we're in a really interesting time in the world right now. And this is what I would call crisis in terms of where we have known life to be, but with the opportunity to ignite evolution. So I always say crisis ignites evolution. So please write this down because this is the perfect time to understand what all of this means. And so we understand that, yes, we're all in lockdown in some capacity around the world, and there are going to be challenges, confronting us. The reality is that this is an opportunity to grow more than ever before. Now, the final part of my story was I took 3 years off to be a stay-at-home dad. I literally, I've been like waiting for this moment for 3 years. I've been preparing for this moment. It's quite funny. For say you've got to be at home with your kids. I'm like, I've been doing that for 3 years. But the reality was within that journey, we started to look at where things were going and realized that a lot of people, although they're talking online, they didn't really maximize the whole online piece today. So I'm going to be talking about some skills that you can, bring into your business immediately. And I'm also going to be giving you a few sort of pointers in terms of some of the things that work and some of the things that don't. But before I get into that, can I get you to use the comments or use your camera? But how many of you are feeling a little bit of fear right now? Like, let's be honest, this is a safe environment. How many of you are feeling a little bit unsure of what's going on? And that's totally normal. I'd be surprised if some of us haven't had any form of, oh, whoa, what's going on? Now, whether that leads to, you know, fear in the way that it completely freezes us, or whether it leads to sort of a bit of adrenaline, you know, fear can come out in different ways. Some of us have just got on with it and worked harder. Some of us have stopped and froze. But it's important to understand this piece, because as I share my screen just briefly here, most of you will have seen this graph before. But I think it's important to understand it in terms of frequency. And that is, this is literally just based on energy frequency. I won't go into all the depth of this, but in terms of your thoughts, in terms of how you show up in the world, you want to be love and above on this graph. You want to be vibrating at least a 500, you know, point amount of energy. We'll just keep it like that. I don't want to dive into what all this energy means and all of that for now. But most people at the moment in the world are living around, you know, that fear piece. Which is about 100 or below. And when you live in fear, then you start to go into the you know, the guilt. Oh my gosh, what if I had done this before this point? I could have made more money. I could have been in a better position. And so the media is obviously going to be throwing us into a state of fear as much as possible right now, because that's where they get the eyeballs. People won't go and turn off the TV. They'll be on it more and more. It gets their ratings up. It gets a lot of things going on. And there's a whole other story that you can follow thereafter. But what I would really like you to become aware of today is where you are placing in terms of how you show up in the world. And if you can really lead a life from the space of love or above, what's going to happen here is you're going to start to show up and attract a lot of success right now. Because when crisis ignites evolution, there is more opportunity. If you go back to the financial disasters in the world, let's say the Great Depression, there were so many millionaires made as a result of on the back end of that, because people were able to see opportunities at the time other people were seeing problems. And entrepreneurs love to solve problems. We're all entrepreneurs on this call. We've all decided to take control of our future. What we now need to identify is, what is the problem? So most of the time, the problem is, once we get away from the shame, the fear, the guilt, and all of that, it's really the actual practical nature of building a business. But I want to say, before we get into too much of the technical skills and all of that, that it's really the most important thing to understand today is that you are in probably the best industry, and you have been prepared for this moment. How many people in the world right now need to create an income from home? How many people need to get better health? How many people need togetherness? Whether it's, you know, yeah, look, it's great to be able to do it offline and hug it out. But the reality is, right now, what we're doing here, this needs to be done more and more and more. And we are all prepared for this. We've been doing this for a long time. If you're new to network marketing, you know, the industry's gone through some major growth and major shifts over the years. I just want to talk about some of the key points so that it really backs up why I'm saying now is a really good time. If you go back to the 1800s, you know, before the 1800s, there was the whole early traders. You know, a lot of people did business through word of mouth bartering. You know, you might have had a cow, someone had hay, you might have swapped them. Maybe that's not the best swap, because you don't get them together. You want cows and hay together, right? But anyway, the reality is that people would swap and they would start doing things. Then you started to see companies monetize that through a direct selling concept back in the late 1800s, and there was big companies that were developed as a result of that. And we all know one that started with A. Now, then leading into the 20s and the 30s, what happened is we started to see the multi-level or the network marketing concept kick in with some nutritional brands, where people were not only paid for sharing a product with somebody else, but they were also sharing beyond just that one person, their networks, and getting paid. Then in the 50s, after the war, you saw the parties concept kick in. So a lot of people were making money through, you know, parties and you know, whether it was beauty products or nutritional products, they were basically making money from groups of people all sitting together and enjoying the experience. Then there was a big court case in the 70s. In 1976, the FTC, Federal Trade Commission in the US, sued a company called Amway. Basically, they said that they were a pyramid scheme. Amway actually won that case. Took 3 years. In 1979, it changed the industry to where it is today, which is a really important understanding. You've got to understand the history of this industry, because then you don't start saying, well, my company's better than yours. You say, we have really come a long way to get to this point, and this is really where we want to honor this. Then what we saw in the 90s and the 2000s is the emergence of social media. But right now, where we kick into this point, right, like literally right now in the last few weeks, it's what I call social stacking, the social stacking revolution. And social stacking is, number one, build an audience. Number two, add value. And number three, ask permission. Now, we've been seeing variations of this over the last few years, but this is where the growth is going to lie moving forwards. It's how do I, build an audience that like and trust me? How do I then add value to that audience without trying to transact? And then as a result, when people are following me and they like what I do, how do I then ask them permission if they're open to taking a look at something new? And we're going to talk about some of the practicalities of doing that today, because when Charlotte said originally we're going to talk about LinkedIn, everything I'm going to talk about today is still going to allow you to build on all of these platforms at the moment as well. So in the comments, I'd love you to drop down, what is your biggest challenge right now in your business? Because here's what most people are doing, I'm seeing around in a lot of businesses. They're either going, right, I have a solution to the problem, or they're freezing and they're not doing anything. Oh, we'll wait till this passes. Oh, we'll wait until something happens. And the 95% that are waiting are missing by the minute opportunity that is staring at them in the face. So then it comes down to, are we really acting on our entrepreneurial nature, or are we still living in fear? Once we understand that we need to be at a higher capacity, higher level, we're going to be able to attract a lot more success as well. It's really great to see where everyone's at the moment. You know, we've got real honesty here. We're saying, you know, team's distracted, time, inconsistency, people aren't coming and shutting off and not wanting to do anything, is scared, and all of that. And I totally get all of this. And, you know, this has only just started. Absolutely. Like, this could go on for 6 to 12 months, right? So, hey, make the most of the opportunity right now. And I would be also saying, here's the mindset that we have as a family. We don't believe anything that we knew up until a few weeks ago is going to be exactly the same again. We believe there's going to be a lot of progression, a lot of new things kick in. And that is, again, just the unknown right now. But we also need to ensure that we are supporting collectively as many people as possible to come into themselves and shine in their own light. And it's really important that you do a lot of inner work in order to get the outer results. So I'm going to talk about 3 things before we go into skills for business today. I'll put them on a piece of paper for you. Foundation, connection, and then optimization. You guys know that last word very, very well. But what I want to talk about today with foundation, connection, and optimization, this forms part of what I call the expansion zone. And the expansion zone are 12 points that Chantel and I identified that it would help people in order to get their best results in any form of life, in business, in relationships. It was basically the foundation to get people performing at their peak. And today we don't have time to go through all 12, but these are like the main subcategories, if you'd like. I'm also getting a few people saying people just don't have the cash available at these times, but they want the products. I would really, really question that one, although that's what people are saying. Everyone will always, in no matter the time, find the cash if they have a real need for it. Look how much people are at the moment stockpiling on things that they don't need to because they're in fear. Look at, and again, it comes down to they feel like they have a need for toilet paper, or I don't want to say they, because we've all had to now do it in some way. Not that we've stockpiled here. I tell you what, it's been fun going, oh, we'll just see what happens. Oh my gosh, we're going to have to get something. But that's a fun story in itself. But yeah, I think it's, Charlotte says, be careful not to make assumptions. It's really important right now that we identify that people have genuine problems. And most of the problems right now are people are waking up going, oh, is my health really that good? Now, we know that this whole corona thing is, look, there's a certain market that's being hit more than others, right? We know those people that are vulnerable from their immune systems and all of that. I'm not an expert in that field. I'll leave that to other people. But what I will talk about is that if you're vibrating at a high level and your immune system's strong and you're investing in yourself personally, then the rest of the stuff will take care of itself. And you'll be in a position where whatever happens, you know that you're giving yourself the best possible chance. What I can't understand right now is if we're hearing a lot that the immune system piece is very, very important, yet people still aren't boosting their immune system. That's where it gets worrying. So let's talk about how to do that. I'm just going to give you a few little capacities that come out of foundation. So foundation for me is detoxification. So basically now the most important thing to detoxify from right now is the media. Right? Again, it's focused on fear. It is focused on getting us into a state where we will believe absolutely everything we see. And we know that most big corporations own what goes on there. So you will see a side of the story, but not the full story ever. And it's important that we don't take that on as the truth of our own. We've had the schooling system do it for many years. You know, I look at, the industrial era was all about getting people in line, getting people following a certain program. We're still following that schooling system today. We've seen the medical system focus on sickness rather than wellness. We've seen so many systems that are broken dictating our lives. Why now use the media system to help you dictate whether you're going to take action in your business or not? It's really important that we understand that. So detoxify from the media. Detoxify from anything that's not serving us from a health perspective. Now, you guys are all really health conscious, but it's important to understand, and maybe it's worth, if you haven't already, research the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is your body's sewerage system. No one's talking about it right now. Yet, if the lymphatic system's not working, you're not going to be getting out all the toxicity that keeps your immune system strong. You know, your skin is one of your, well, it's you know, your main source of getting rid of toxicity. Skin brushing, walking, running, sweating, getting in the sun, all of these kind of things are really important. Again, you guys know the word detoxification. It's up to you to find what works best for you. I'm a water fasting fan. I do long water fasts quite regularly, but then what happens on the back end of that is that leads into some pretty clean eating as well for you know 99% of the time. In order to also identify how to go inwards, and again, this is all self-care strategies to begin with, and I think this is an important conversation because most networking teams right now will be talking about how do we actually get the results, and the results come from everything I'm talking about right now. So it's really important that we dive in on this. Movement's really important every 20 minutes. Now, when you're at home, try to find a way to get your computer or your workstation up so you can be standing when you're on there. And we want to be then moving every 20 minutes. So it could be as simple as this. So I'm standing right now. I've got a whole setup. In fact, I'm just going to show you what I've done. So I've got a few big lights there. I've found a few things I can chuck my computer on. Yes, I've got a bit of a wall thing behind. You don't need to go like that. Hey, this is literally just paper at the moment. So you can just do something like that if you want to set something up, if you haven't got really a place that you can be doing lives. But whatever it looks like, find a way to be moving regularly. It might be going from this into push-ups, this into lunges, this into movement. Okay, again, lymphatic system. Think about detoxification. Now, the reason for this as well is that it raises our endorphins and our dopamine levels, which are our happy hormones. And when we raise these, what generally starts to happen is we start feeling good and wanting to attract more good into our lives. When we're in a space of fear or depression or not moving too much, and by the way, back when I was sort of at crisis point in 2011, I was identified to have depression and anxiety. Not only did we get told we couldn't have kids, all of that was going on at the moment. And I was able to navigate that through understanding the power of everything I'm just talking about right now as well. So keep that in mind. Some of this stuff is really good for us because it can raise our vibration and our health. In addition to this, you know, not only have you got movement, obviously good food and detoxification, but at the same time, we want to understand that there are some key principles that are going to really impact the mind right now, and that is some form of mindfulness. So how often are you taking time to breathe in order to be able to completely ground and connect with what's going on around us, as in our family? So what I find is by practicing some form of mindfulness, look, you can do this many different ways. There's meditation, there's prayer, there's sound healing, there's all of these kind of cool things out there right now, but find something that works best for you. And the reason being is 8 weeks of practicing mindfulness, and in particular meditation, can shrink our amygdala, which is our control center in our brain for stress, and can shrink it down. So then when we look at the ground and we see a snake, normally we would jump and run away really quickly, or we would freeze. But in the time that our amygdala starts to shrink a little bit, we see the snake, we identify it's a stick, we haven't lost any time, we've just been able to process from a different angle. And that's also great right now because now we're not processing stress in terms of holding it on at a cellular level. We're taking it on as something that can be turned into some positive results. So some form of mindfulness as well. So what you can hear already, I've just kind of dived into a few key things right now that are really important to take care of you. Very important. Now, the reason I'm also telling you this is because when you're working with your teams, we have an expectation that they're going to do something. It's like, well, come on, can't you just get out and start enrolling? Can't you just do something? And they will not be able to do that if they're not in that kind of space. So what are you doing to build a high-performing team? What are you doing to talk with your team? How can you give them a bit of love right now and say, guys, have you thought of doing these? Can you let me know? Ask the questions. Can you let me know what you're doing to care for yourself right now? Because when you find those questions out and we'll find out how people are sort of responding, then you can say simply, are you open? And this is an important word. Are you open to taking a look at another way that we could help you to be able to perform better? And if they say, yes, great, say, hey, listen, how often are you moving? Every 20 minutes. How often are you eating well? How often are you detoxifying? This is great. The other thing is it leads into longevity, because we know that the world's longest lived cultures, the blue zones, for example, as one study group, have lived the longest based on all of these kind of principles already. So we're just asking us to basically follow these principles. We're going to be in a better space already. That leads me on to connection. Now, as I said, there's many different components to this, and today I'm just kind of whizzing through a few things that are going to really help us get a starting point in our lives. The second thing, connection. Now, there's three completely important, parts of this connection piece, but they're all separate in a way, but they all mean the same thing. So connection with self, right? So that's where I always talk about how often are you sitting in silence? A bit of mindfulness there, but how often are you sitting in silence and just observing rather than scrolling? I would say right now it's great to be using your phone to be doing business, but switching it off at all other times. Really, really good to be doing that. So, connection with self, investing in self. What are you doing right now to grow? Are you reading? Are you someone that's online, watching courses and doing things that are going to support you? That's important as well. And there's also some other components that will lead in from there, just from having that extra level of awareness. The more awareness you have right now, I think it's going to be the best for you, because it's going to allow you to look in from the outside to your business, but also from the outside into your family and yourself, and identify what you can do to up level in all areas. The second piece is, how are you connecting with your family? Gosh, there's an opportunity right now for someone to go teach a few families how to really spend some quality time with their kids. I can tell you that, because there's been this big shift very quickly around the world, where it's like, okay, we're all indoors together now. How do we maximize this? How do we do this? And it's important that we have really open, honest conversations, but we're holding space. I always believe how you hold space for your family directly impacts your team, right? So, it's almost like how you do one thing is how you do everything. But here's the thing. So often we've come from a conditioning of telling people what to do. So I'm going to tell you I've got a good opportunity for you. It's great. This is what it's done for me. That's telling. I'm going to tell my kids not to do that. I'm going to tell my partner that I need this. What about if we just all hold space for each other and identify that we are able to empower people to make the right choices for them by simply asking the right questions and not reacting to what we see in front of us? So the reaction point might be in your business. I'm not getting any sales. Oh my gosh, doom and gloom. Starts triggering the next piece. Now there's no money. Now I can't pay rent. So you start programming this kind of effect, right? And it's important that we go, hang on a sec. What if I could? What if I could observe? What if I could hold space in this current area of my life? But the same happens with the family. So the family is, what can I do in order to be able to support them, but still get my stuff done? I heard a comment before when we were first getting started. It's like, well, it's okay to still work. And even though they're there, and absolutely it is. But it's, how do you as a family navigate that? What are the questions you're asking? How are you going to respond when there is a bit of tension? Because there will be if you're in a house for more than what you normally, in. It's natural. We've all got different energies going on. But here's the thing that we've found that works really well at home. Get some really beautiful music going on in the background. Calm, mindfulness kind of music. Get a salt lamp on. Get the whether it's, we've got like some essential oils burning around the house as well. It creates this Zen zone, right? So basically everyone's in a calmer space naturally because the environment is calmer. What are you doing to support your environment? That's the question I have for you today. A lot of questions for you today. And there's also then the connection with your tribe. So I said connection with self, connection with, your family, but then also connection with your tribe. This is our opportunity right now. How often are you sitting having conversations? Speak openly, speak with everyone, be there for them, but also be there to ask questions when you need to in order to be able to empower. The more of us that are empowered and vibrating at a higher level, the less we're going to worry about anything. I don't know how many of you are actually worried about the actual thing that's going on right now, or if we're just worried about not knowing what's going on. I think a lot more people are a bit more worried about what's not going, or about the changes, if you'd like, in the environment, more than actually catching this thing. I don't know, maybe you're different, but I know from speaking to a lot of people, it's more so we've got to support each other through this, but again, hold space and ask questions, not react. The natural reaction, if we don't agree, is either taking it personally, taking it as a victim, or going, no, I can't deal with this. I've got to get out of the room, rather than literally just observing your thoughts, observing your emotions, and asking yourself, why do I have those thoughts and emotions right now? And what I've tracked down is whenever I get a thought or emotion in a space that I feel like I want to react, but I stay calm, I realize that it comes down to when I was a kid. A lot of it's like, oh my gosh, my parents said that to me. Oh my gosh. So it takes me back there. So it's about sort of having that self-awareness throughout this journey, throughout the connection piece as well. I'm throwing a lot at you. I'm just kind of going for it here, guys, because this is what's coming up. So let me know if this is making sense so far. I've got a message here saying it's hard with a 4-year-old who's very needy at the moment. He rarely lets me have time to focus. I really understand that. And we're finding the same with our 3-year-old. But what we've also found is we're having conversations consistently about like, how can we get one thing done? And then we focus there. So it's almost like you're splitting your time and your focus every 5 minutes if need be, but you're still being productive in those 5 minutes. So it might be you make the call, you get on something like Chantel at the moment's taken the little guy out the front. They're doing some gardening right now. So if you've got, the partners, involved, great. If you don't, then obviously, my hat goes off to you to be able to navigate that whole solution as well. But I think you can. It's just a matter of finding ways to keep the family, in check as well. So never heard a message put so logically and well into 52 years. Thanks, Sue. I appreciate it. Really appreciate that.
James, can I drop a question in
here?
Yeah,
go for it, Charlotte.
So I'm finding a lot of my distributors and even some of my family members have been saying they feel like approaching people about the business specifically at this time is like hitting people while they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
See, for me, I think, oh my gosh, if my friend didn't approach me 6 years ago, where would I have been today? So I see it only in a positive thing. How can we help our tribe understand and see that they really are helping people?
Yeah, great question. And I totally get the hold back, feeling like you're taking advantage of people in that vulnerable time. But if you're doing that, you're taking this from a selfish approach. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean to I'm not saying, hey, you're all selfish. What I mean here is that your insecurity and your holdback is now the reason that you're not helping others. So were you really doing it for them in the first place, or were you doing it for yourself? Because you've got to go back to, this is about helping others get what they want, and you will ultimately get what you want. It's not the other way around. It's not about, yes, we've got to put the oxygen mask on first to look after ourselves, but it's important to remember that, how can I help people right now? Like, I'm looking, how can I help? So I can give a lot of time. I can do what I'm doing here. I can be talking to lots of people. And naturally, if I do enough of that, people are going to say, hey, listen, I've got so much value. Can I please work with you with something else? And that's what I would be suggesting a lot of us are doing right now. It's putting out messages of hope, of positivity, of holding space. It's also connecting with people that that are being hit financially and saying to them, like, literally, I've got an opportunity. But it's not, are you interested? Because are you interested is a little bit like what I observe as a parent right now. I've got my 3-year-old and I've got me, and I go, are you interested in coming with me to the shops? And he goes, no. Right? What parent-child thing happens all the time. All right, well, I'm going to stay home. I want to go out. So here's the thing. If you use the word open, it's one word shift. Instead of interested, open. Are you open to taking a look at something that may be able to help you right now? People don't see that as threatening. They feel like it's completely a question where you are genuinely coming from the right space. And so it shouldn't impact how you approach this, even if you still have that approach, which is like, I don't want to hit people right now. But if you just ask the word open, it's actually easier for you to say it as well. And I think that is where we want to be playing as well. So Charlotte, I think it comes down to a few things. Number one, how can I help others? How can I be a servant-driven leader? Like, what do I have in my toolbox right now that can help the community? You guys have a product that can help right now. You guys have a business opportunity that can help right now. So don't hold on to that just because you might have an insecurity, which if you observe where that comes from, it's probably from when you were a kid, right? So let's work through that, but let's work through it quickly. I was saying to Chantel yesterday, we took 3 years to kind of reinvent ourselves. We went from, obviously prominent builders in the industry to completely shifting in the way that we approached everything. And people are now being required to do what we did in 3 years in a week, right? So where does it all, how can you speed up in a week? Awareness around thoughts, Very important, very important. Just like start asking yourself at every point, where does that come from? And have fun with it. If you got to snap at your partner, go, where does that come from? And you'll realize that there's something there that you can work through very, very quickly. Support each other through that as well. There's a few things coming through. Full-time carer, so I've always needed to use my time wisely. This current situation hasn't really changed our lives. I'm always home. So I've ramped up my checking in with people via social media more than usual. Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a technique to do that as well in a moment that can help you to expand that. So we've spoken about foundation, we've spoken about connection, and the third piece is optimization. So optimization comes down to, this is a really fascinating topic. So often we say, when we first start someone off in the business, we go, why did you join? Like, why? Tell me about your why. And right now, I want to say that your why comes a little bit later. Right? Because we haven't got time to tune into that if we're not detoxed and we're not in a space where we've practiced mindfulness. What's going to happen is you're going to think of something logically rather than connect with something emotionally. Right? You're going to be thinking of what you think's the right answer rather than really connecting with it. Once you've gone through the expansion zone and you get to optimization, that's when purpose comes in. So that's where you connect with the reason, finding the meaning in what you do on a daily basis. That's where you do things like, living your passions on a day-to-day basis. And that's where you look to make impact. So this is where it comes into the business realm. So we've gone the self-care route first, which is the foundational principles, looking after ourselves, make sure that our health is good, make sure obviously that of our families as well. We then lead that into connection, making sure that everything's really positive in terms of the environment and what we're doing in order to hold space for people. And then third, we go into, right, how can I now get the best possible results? Number one, connect with why I'm doing what I'm doing. Number two, live my passions on a day-to-day basis. If you're a musician, I got a piano out here. I play music all the time. You're going to see me more playing music on piano right now online. Because why wouldn't I live my passion? Like, this is a beautiful time for you to share your gifts with the world, guys. And so many people join a network marketing business to one day live their passion. So they have more time so they can go and play music. But you won't get to the summit unless you love the journey. So do the things you love on a day-to-day basis now and bring that into your environment, into your family. Have fun with your family. Do things. Practice gratitude with your family. It's so much fun. Hold my little guy's hands in the morning and night and I say, Urban, what are you grateful for today? And he looks at me and smiles and he goes, Mama, Dad, my bike, like all these beautiful things. But what that does is it raises our serotonin levels. It makes us feel happy. So we're going to attract more success in our lives throughout those little hacks as well. And finally, this is where it comes down to impact. How do we make impact in the world? How do we optimize our expansion zone? How do we get to a point where we can now help other people go through that journey? And that's where this is all down to your vehicle right now. So we can't help other people get what they want if we see them as numbers or transactions in our business. We can't, because you'll never understand why someone doesn't take action. You'd be like, I just can't, I put all this time into this, I can't believe they're not doing anything, right? That's coming from that place of need rather than the place of leading and giving. So what do we do in order to gain more success in our business right now? It goes back down to a principle I've already spoken about, and that is asking more questions. That is reaching out to people and finding out where they are without making assumptions of where people are at. This is coming down to using social media more than we ever have before, with a few key tools that can really enable the results very, very quickly. So I'm going to talk about that. A, write down the word A or the letter, V, R. A, V, R. So here's the deal. Now we're going to have a contact list, and I really trust, look, for those of you that haven't been in the industry a while, I just want to talk about the importance of having your list. So your list is a database of people that you have access to. And if you don't have a list and all the names are up in your head right now, if you're thrown a curveball because you read something in the media and you can't sort of get your thoughts together, but you haven't got a list, you're going to lose days and days and days on taking action. You know, your contact list is about people that you know and people that they know. And I want to put this practically. A lot of people say, I don't know enough people. If you just had access to 200 people and they have access to 200 people, right now you have access to 40,000 people. 200 by 200, right? Put that in a calculator, 40,000 people. So if you know 200 people and you assume that they know 200 people, right now you've already got access to 40,000 people that you can find out whether they're open to taking a look at something if you do it smart. So how do you do it? Well, you need to start adding people on Facebook if you haven't already, or on LinkedIn, or on Instagram. And what we do is when someone accepts our request, so that's the A, add. When someone accepts the request, we do V, which is voice note or video. Now, I'm going to give you the little tool here. So let's say Charlotte and I connect online for the first time. And Charlotte's just accepted my friend request. I'm going to send Charlotte a message, and it's going to be like this. Hey, Charlotte, great to connect. Really appreciate it. This is a voice note, by the way. Great to connect. Listen, I love your profile. I love the energy that you're portraying. You know, how's it all going right now? So what I've done is I've just broken that V, that voice note, into 3 simple steps. T, C, Q. I'm going to keep this simple. So A was for add, V is for voice note, but within the V, you've got T, C, Q. Thank Charlotte for the ad, pay a compliment, ask a question. Thank, compliment, question, T, C, Q. And I can write this down later if you've missed this, or you can watch this back. So now what happens is every person you add on social media, send them a voice note. TCQ. At the same time you're doing your TCQ, you also go over to their wall on Facebook as an example, and you react, which is the R for react, and respond to their last 3 posts. So you go down and you love their post and you comment something authentic and genuine. Don't like a post if you don't like the post, right? You know what I mean? Be genuine here. But the key is, if you're doing that to the last 3 posts, now Charlotte's just seen that I've reached out to her and I like what she's all about. That's actually going to make her feel pretty good, because a lot of us love to be acknowledged in some regard, right? So you've complimented them, that makes her feel good, but then she's gone and seen that you've also commented on her posts. She will now be open much more to connecting with you rather than you just reaching out trying to pitch her something. Most people that get pitched on the first date run away. So here's the thing. We want to be doing that really consistently right now, adding people consistently, bringing people into our contact list. But this is not about business building right now. This is about holding space, asking questions. People are going to naturally say, how's it going for you? And you can say with no hype, it's going great. This is one of the best times we've had in business because people are looking for what we have and they don't have it yet. People need what we have, but they don't have it yet. So Charlotte's just summarized it perfectly. A was for ad. V is for voice note, or you could do a video. You know, hey Charlotte, how's it going? And then we go to the TCQ, you know, thank them for the ad. Make sure that you give them a compliment and ask a question. The person that asks the last question wins. And then, we react and we respond. We can build a gigantic business. Actually, let's not even say business. We can build a gigantic network right now from just focusing on helping others through connecting and allowing them to hear our real voice. You know, too often people buy into, you know, we always say, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, or you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. But you can if you type it. Everyone takes everything out of context. So it's important that they hear your voice. If you haven't done this before, find me on Facebook, James Yates. Go and add me as a friend and send me a voice note. I want to see that you're doing. I'm going to hold you accountable to it. Just go and do it. And because that's going to allow us to practice, and you can practice with each other and just get really, really good at holding space with people. That's the key here, hold space. So it's not about like, hey, John, and you're thinking in the back of the mind, I hope this person's going to now quickly ask me about my business or ask me a question. No, just build real life relationships. Turn strangers into friends for now. You know, turning friends into family, turning friends into your business associates. That will happen if you do enough on the front end. So that's what we really, really want to be focused on at the moment. So let's go back a step. I just want to really summarize here because I've thrown a lot at you. Foundation. That was about self-care. That was about self-love. It was about putting the oxygen mask on you first, because if you do that, you can help more people. The second thing was connecting with others. Yourself, your family, and also your relationships in terms of your tribe. And the third piece was then optimizing, really driving down deep into your purpose, because now you're so clean-headed and clear-headed and clean body, you're going to connect much more with the reason that you're doing what you're doing. And then you're going to utilize that to help connect with other people and optimize more people. That's what this is about, guys. It's as simple as that. And then what happens is you take that approach to LinkedIn. Now, up until recently, we couldn't do the voice note on LinkedIn. Like, it was always just the type, right? But we built, as I said before, we enrolled over 500 people on LinkedIn using a few key strategies that were very much what I've just mentioned today. And that was that was personal enrollments. And then obviously that led to thousands of people in teams. Chantel and I lived in 10 cities in 6 years around the world, in 6 countries, because of LinkedIn 100%. So if you're not yet on LinkedIn, here's where I see it right now. You have professionals on LinkedIn that are all wanting what you have, and they don't yet know about it. And the great thing about LinkedIn is that there are a lot of professionals on there ready to hear more about business opportunities. They're professional. There's a lot more professional people on there. And so by just building some rapport first, building that relationship, then we're going to be able to go and utilize that platform. I would always say, never rely on one platform to build your business, especially with what's going down right now. You know, you might see at some stage, like, and this is completely just like, you know, thinking out loud here, but you might see a platform go down for a day. Like, you know, who knows? Because, you know, there's less resource. And so if that happens, then, and all your business is on Facebook and that happens, where else are you going? So make sure that you've got your plan B as well. That's, I think, a vital piece of the whole puzzle. So always think about that. Now, we could spend hours speaking about, you know, getting your brand out there and and positioning against the right audience and all of that. But what I will say on LinkedIn is that you can find people that you're looking for to the suburb and the profession. If you want to find a real estate agent that lives in Cronulla, Sydney, you can do that on LinkedIn. So if you've got a certain market that you are looking to play with, that you find are positive, driven, happy, you know, pleasant people that are open in terms of looking at stuff right now because they might have been hit, then, you know, that's a good place to be playing as well. But again, it's all relationships first, all relationships first. And by the way, we have a whole course on the LinkedIn piece if you need it. It's just completely like top to bottom, all animated, all cool stuff.
James, I was just going to ask you that if you could make that available for the team, that would be wonderful. Because, you know, I think more than ever today, we should diversify.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you've just been building your business on Facebook like me, you really want to start learning other platforms. So we'd be very interested to seeing that. And then, you know, ask if you'd be willing to come back and do an hour training on LinkedIn.
Of
maybe
course.
Just, you know, for the group who's interested. So maybe if you show us a program, we can work through that and then come back on a training.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely do that. And I'm really happy to make a plan. I think it's such a beautiful time to be learning new things and trying new things. And the other thing as well is that there's no right or wrong right now as well. So although we've talked about, you know, giving a few tips here, this is where the entrepreneurs are made. So you might find that there's a gap somewhere there that you are able to maximize, and that's where the next, you know, millionaires come as well. It's a phenomenal time as an entrepreneur to be really solving those problems. But it goes back down to the first thing I showed you, which was the whole vibrational frequency piece. Like, you've just got to get into a space where you're love and above so that you're able to act at your full capacity. Because otherwise you're going to be going, otherwise it's going to be like this. You're going to contact a lot of people, but they're not going to be feeling it. Right. And it's just going to be like so much work with so little results. So you've got to be vibrating at a level that you feel great. And you know what I mean by vibrating, right? Just like your high vibe, right? Good positive energy, not forced motivation, not like, oh my God, guys, come down. This is amazing. Like, not like that. This is like coming from, when you speak, it's coming from your stomach. Like, it's that raw, like you own this, right? And that's important. So when I speak from stage, it's like, I feel like my stomach is tight because and tight is in a good way, as in like I really own what I'm talking about because I do. And that's why we always say, follow your gut. Always follow what you feel deep inside. It's really, really important. So Charlotte, I mean, we could chat for hours. I just kept going today, but I guess one thing, look, for those of you that have gained some value from today, let me know. You know, let me know in the comments if maybe one big takeaway that you've gained from today. I would love to hear that. Here to help, really here to help. I'm in a really, like, I've always been in a giving mood, but I just feel that right now we can all, you know, come together, which is really great.
You know, the comments in this chat, you know, some people are saying, I feel so emotional right now. This is truth that just hit me. I think you've moved people and you've made us understand that it is a new season and we do have hope for people out there. And I love how you've broken it down into first look after yourself, then your family, then go out and do what you can do to help. You know, oftentimes we reverse that. So it's really important. You know, it's interesting, James, when I got back from the States, of course, I'm in 14 days isolation. I said to my husband, it's such a weird thing that as the world is in crisis, I almost feel like I can breathe. I feel like you know, stress in so many ways has been released and we are all like being put at home. I mean, wherever does the Prime Minister tell you to stay at home? He's like, get off the couch and go work, right? So now we are told to stay at home. Why? You know, use the time wisely, my friends. Don't sit and watch everything on Netflix. I've seen so many people comment saying, oh my gosh, the internet is so slow because everybody's on Netflix. What? Go do self-development. Spend this time with your family. You know, if you want to watch a movie a day, go for it. But don't spend 12 hours on Netflix. Spend this time to improve yourself and see what you can do to help others.
Can I jump in on that? On that as well, Charlotte, really quickly. Like what you've just said is 100% so important. And the TV thing, like our TV is actually in this room. Like literally that's our TV. We've put it away. It's like it's not out there. We can't watch it. And we've done that for 3 years now. Because we didn't want to raise our son watching information that was literally just a load of, you know, crap, to be honest. But at the same time right now, like I would challenge a lot of you to do that or maybe invite you to put it away and use that extra time either to connect with family or to work. Because it's only going to be productive moving forwards if we take a lot of action right now.
Yeah. James, I'll let you know too that we do have a Live Vantage couple. Sam and Dean met through a Live Vantage event. So as you said before, put up your hand if you're single. Well, these guys were both single and they met at a Live Vantage event. And oh my gosh, this love is just blossoming. I just spent some days with them in Utah and watching them. It's just such a beautiful thing. So yeah.
Such a beautiful story. Such a beautiful story.
It is.
Oh, thanks, Charlotte. We really appreciate that.
And James knows us.
Yes, James knows us.
Yeah. No, it's been great.
And can you imagine that these two are isolated at home together for 14 days?
Yes, we are.
What a honeymoon.
Yeah. I can imagine for sure. That's great, guys.
So team, I'm going to get some information from James on a package that you can learn some LinkedIn and then see when he's available to come back and work with a group who wants to know more about that. So look at him, Team Activate Distributors. We'll post that sometime today. James, from the bottom of our hearts, you, my friend, are a mover and shaker, and you have got such a purpose in life. You really move people and you don't even know that you're doing it. I want to tell you that I watch you from a distance, sometimes a bit closer, and your reputation goes way ahead of you. You are a very unique and special guy in our profession, somebody that we can truly trust. So I thank you for what you do and for lifting this industry and profession to the next level.